So, hi Jo, this is Jo Carr-Will. Thanks very much for coming on our for an interview with the Life with Lionesses tour. It's great to have you on. So, Jo, you played in the inaugural 96 tour and the 98 tour, and you trained for the 2000 tour, but due to injury, you couldn't partake. So, if we could just start by you telling me about where and when you were born and how you got into playing rugby league.
Yeah, so I was born in Pontefract, which is a kind of a real mining West Yorkshire town that was really into kind of rugby and sports and things. I was born in 73. I think when I got to kind of my teenage years, I loved sport, but mainly back then there was no women's rugby. So actually I got into hockey, and then in kind of my mid-teens went to play football. I've got to be honest, I wasn't the best at football. I gave it a go, but I wasn't the best. I always said that, you know, if I was right in front of goal and took a shot at it, I could easily hit the corner flag. So probably wasn't my sport. And then when I was at college, I remember being at college, we was playing hockey, and there was a local nurses team that asked us to play against them, rugby against them in a fundraising match. So we were fundraising for equipment for the children's ward. And there was myself, Lucy Ferguson, who was part of that first tour as well, was at college with me back then. We were really good friends, and we played this game. And when we played this game, we played it at the Featherstone Rovers ground, which is, you know, a really good ground to play at anyway. And a guy called Martin, who had just started a women's team up in Wakefield, came and watched the game, and then came to a few of us afterwards. There's probably 4 or 5 of us that came to us and said, hey, look, you know, you played well there. Why don't you come down to it was at Featherstone Sports Centre at the time. I've got a new ladies team started up. And I'd like you to come and play for us and train with us and everything. So it kind of went from there, really. So I was probably around 17, 18 at that time before I even started playing rugby.
So was that your first game, the one against the nurses?
Yes. It was, and it was pretty much, you know, they'd had a local coach that coached them in a few of the moves. We'd got our, I'm going to say PE teacher at college, but the people at college kind of taught us. We'd go up onto the top field, and it was a bit of a laugh, really. It was more novelty and a bit of a laugh and a fundraising rather than actually this is a sport that I can get into.
And did you feel like so when Martin came and you know, you kind of went on that path, did you love it already? Did you think this is the sport for me?
I don't think I'd thought of it as a proper sport back then. I thought it was, like I say, I thought it was a novelty. And we went down to watch them train. And actually, they trained at the same sports centre that we used to practice football at, but on a different night. So we said, well, we might as well go watch. And what had happened back then, it had just got quite a few players that had started who were part of an handball team. So Brenda Dobeck, Shelley Land, who was on that tour, Julie Burrows, who was a great Wakefield Featherstone player and went into the Great Britain squad, Sue Ayward, Julie Wells. And when we got there, a lot of them had played at international level. So we went and watched them train and kind of was like, oh my God, we can't do this. Are we sure? And actually, as we were watching them train, Joanne Roberts came with us as well, who Lucy knew and I knew from school as well. And we all went to watch them at the same time and kind of said, do we think we can do this? And I think we were kind of lulled into a sense of that's the level that everybody must play at, because these had played at an international level. And we kind of went, wow, this is fast. You know, their ball handling skills were absolutely amazing. And we kind of watched them and said, wow, these are good. Wouldn't it be great if we could get into this team? So then started training from there.
Fantastic. And so did you start to play proper club rugby then from that time?
Yes, so we kind of went to training from there, and obviously not straight away, but within a few kind of weeks, months, we'd then kind of sub and then get into the games and took it from there, really, and never looked back. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So so what year was this then?
Wow, that'll have been around 91, 92.
Right. Okay. So then talk me through how that led to playing for Great Britain, and what happened in those years.
Yeah, so, you know, getting on to kind of that 94, there was talk of kind of maybe a Great Britain squad and maybe going on tour. So I can remember us all getting quite excited about that. But I think back then, I didn't, and this is just me all over, I didn't think that I'd be good enough to get in that squad, because the Featherstone or Wakefield Panthers, as we were known to start with, side was that good, and they had that many players. I wouldn't have even considered myself in the top half of our squad. So then as it went on, I think I got into the Yorkshire squad. And you think, okay, I'm not that bad then, I've got into the Yorkshire squad. But I don't think I even contemplated that I'd get into the Great Britain squad. So when we did then put a squad together and I got selected for that, it was a bit of a, wow, this is awesome. But also, I'm just a squad player. You know, I'm kind of not making up the numbers, but back then I played at centre, I'd played at full back and probably second row a couple of times. So I thought, well, probably a good squad player. I'm not one of the stars, but I'm probably a good squad player. So kind of thought, well, if I train hard enough and I commit myself, I could stay in this squad and I could get on tour if we get on tour. So we kind of, when we got in the squad and then we started really training and building up, you know, that kind of year before, it was really hard, not just physically and in the game, but we also had to raise an awful lot of money as well for us to enable us to get on that tour. So I remember that being very tough. And actually, even right until weeks and months before, every time we went to Great Britain training on a Saturday, it was almost as though we were waiting for them to say, oh, we're not going, we haven't raised the funds. So we were all doing so much to raise funds and do all this training as well.
Oh, and what kind of things did you have to do to fundraise?
So there was lots of things that we did centrally. So everybody had to raise £1,000 each. I remember at the time I'd started a job at Treebor Bassett's, and they'd done this leadership awards programme where whoever won this programme got this trip to Amsterdam all paid for and everything. And I can remember doing it thinking, well, they were going to, it was to the sum of about £500. And I can remember thinking, I'm going to work really hard and I want to win this award. And when I win it, I'm going to ask them instead if they'll put the money towards what I'm trying to raise, which I did win, and I got the money towards it. So
amazing.
I got half of it doing that. I also, at the time, it was all from friends of friends, knew there was this pop group that was an All Saints tribute act that had been on the telly a few weeks before, and somebody knew them, and we said we were going to do a fundraising night, and they actually asked them if they'd come and do the music at the venue, and so it was all around you know, all the things that you do at the club as well, the envelope raffles, the amper raffles, doing the bingo, doing just absolutely anything. And we put that night on, and we actually charge people to come. You know, all my family and friends and a lot of the people that I worked with all came as well. And I was able within that and the other kind of £500, because that was a big lump sum back then as well, to have raised the money. And then, but that didn't stop there, because centrally then you helped each other to raise even more money, because between us as a squad, it was, you know, an hell of a lot of money to raise, and we did bucket collections and raffles and just absolutely anything we could think of to raise that money.
Oh my God, so much to think about when you're trying to work and train as well.
Yeah. So I know back then I was doing kind of shift work as well, and 12-hour shifts, so it was kind of difficult to get your head around it all. But I don't think we knew any different back then. It was, do we want to go or not? Well, that's how we get there.
Yeah, of course. And what was the training like? What did it involve?
So the training, it progressed over the years. So we're on that very first one. We'd probably have, so we had club training twice a week anyway, and then obviously a game on a Sunday if it was in season. we trained all day on a Saturday with Great Britain squad, and so that was kind of took a full day out of your day. Now, it wasn't just all physical, it was a lot of that preparation work and things like that as well. But then we'd have things that I think back then it wasn't as advanced, so they'd maybe say do 3 cardio sessions a week that's of 30 minutes and 3 weight sessions as well. And I think back then, although I was kind of sporty, I don't think I'd ever done any gym work, or I wouldn't say I'm naturally athletic. Everything had to be kind of worked really hard for me, and all of that then to fit that in, even to your week of working and then doing that and then fundraising, it was really quite difficult at the time.
Yeah, definitely. But you were really motivated to do it, presumably.
Oh God, yeah. And actually, I was surrounded. So at the Wakefield team, there was quite a lot of us that was in that squad. So we'd all kind of spend a lot of time together. We'd meet up and train together, and try to make it into as much fun as possible, and try and help each other with that fundraising as well. So that team ethos, even on the weeks you were feeling a little bit drained, or there might have been some weeks that you might not have been feeling that great, the rest of the team took you along with them.
That's really nice, isn't it? And what did your family think of it?
Oh, my family was absolutely ecstatic. Coming from a mining town where rugby league, I always remember when Featherstone won the Challenge Cup back in the 80s, and it wasn't my dad, actually, it was my mum that marched us all to the bottom of the street to watch the coach go by and wave to the players and things. So, it was a real proud moment for them. And my dad's always been very sporty. So my dad as well were just like, they still feast off the stories now. And, my daughter used to play rugby for Great Britain. They're still
right.
We'll feast off that now.
Yeah, I would as well. That's amazing. So when did you realise that you were going, and that you had all the money, and that you were going to Australia?
I don't think it was that. It was only a couple of months before when we actually when we turned up at this training session, and I always remember it being a cut-off point of, right, if we get all this and we get to that point, we can go. And I remember us going, and it just seemed surreal back then. It was kind of, I've never been up to that point, never been on a long haul flight anywhere. And it kind of feels a bit surreal that, is it going to happen or not? And I think it's easier in your mind to think, I bet it won't happen. We'll try. And if it doesn't work this time, the money's in the pot for the next time. But a few months before that, I think the excitement really started building, as in, yes, we've booked the tickets, we've booked hotels, and the kind of excitement then really started building momentum.
Wow. And what were your expectations going? I mean, what did you know of the Australians and how they played?
To be honest, we didn't know a lot about them at the time. And I remember a couple of the male kind of figures within Rugby League coming and talking to us, coming and helping coach us. I even remember them coming and saying, when you go out there, it's not going to be like what we play over here. They are trained to, let's call it spoiling tactics. Right. They're trained, that's part of their game. Don't get yourself worked up about that. That's just what they do, and don't be shocked when that happens. I remember, people like Joe Lydon helping with the training and things like that, which was we were just in awe at the time, like, wow. But it was just really fantastic to be part of that. We didn't really know much about them. If I think back then, I'm not sure we knew what to expect. We knew that they were a little bit further down the line from us. They'd had an international squad a little bit more, and they'd been playing the Kiwis. So I think we did expect them to be a lot better than us.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, talk me through your memories of it, of getting there, and what you did, and off field, on field.
Yeah, so the memories, getting there was I think it took us a couple of days to get there, from kind of being picked up at our local kind of service station, which the bus picked us all up and took us for the flights. And I think even the stopover that we had somewhere, and I can't remember exactly where it was, we had, we had kind of a 12-hour gap, but we didn't go anywhere. We waited 12, we couldn't, because I don't think we could afford to as well. It's just, you need to stay here and wait. So it took us a couple of days to get there. I think the people that had worked shifts before were more used to that jet lag feeling. So I'd worked shifts before, and it was kind of like, yeah, this is what it feels like pretty much all the time when you're changing your body clock around. I remember getting there and it being winter for them, or certainly cold for them, and we turned up at the training ground to watch them, just to get our heads around it. And they were all in big hoodies and baseball and big fluffy woolly hats and things, and loads of layers, and we were in shorts and vests. We kind of turned up like, no, this is warm. So I remember that in particular. I remember some really great laughs. So up until the Great Britain squad, we'd played against some absolutely phenomenal players across the different teams in the league, but it was always against them. So all of a sudden you're now in a squad and you're all together as one team, and actually meeting them people and getting to know them and kind of their backgrounds and how similar things were. It was just awesome to really get to know people. I remember us training hard. So we'd get up first thing on a morning and go training, and I think the bit for us and a lot of us was where they were, right, you need to eat now. And we was kind of like, oh, but we don't eat. And they were making us kind of, no, you need to fit a meal in here and then you need to do this. And it was all really quite intense, actually, when we got there. I remember us having a couple of days off in the middle. And that's it, really. There were a few of us went to, when we were in Brisbane, went to the Gold Coast. I'd spent the day at the beach and a few hours in a local pub.
Oh, lovely.
And we'd got our Great Britain, the polo shirts on, and actually out there, it was as though you kind of celebrities.
Really? Fantastic.
And we obviously weren't used to that. And it was like, oh, wow, come on and sit with us and come in, get some free drinks. And it was just, everywhere we went, everybody was just absolutely brilliant with us, which is very strange for us because we were kind of like, no, it's just us.
Yeah. Oh, that's great though, isn't it? Like, and quite unexpected then.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And what were the games like? So you played 3 tests and 3 non-tests.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, I think the one pivotal thing, and I bet most of them say it, that last test, which was the deciding test, was the one thing that, if there's other things that I've forgotten, that last 10 minutes of that test was kind of, it's etched in my memory, because I remember about 10 minutes before the end, I actually tore my ankle ligaments and had to limp off. And there were only 2 points in the game. Oh, and as it normally is, it seemed to be that they played about 6 minutes extra time, and the referee gave them penalty after penalty. We started on our line, and you kind of think, oh my God, I can feel what's building here. And I can't remember which player it was. They broke free and got very near our line, and I remember them getting tackled into touch or something from one of our players. And then the whistle went. And, from hobbling off about 10 minutes earlier and being in absolute pain, all of a sudden the whistle went and we all just went running across the field until, about 20 minutes after. And then I thought, oh God, yeah, my ankle hurts. Yeah. But when that final whistle went, there's no feeling that I can describe that's like that. It's just such an unbelievable feeling of that success, and I don't think we expected it. So when it was that close and that intense, and we were the first kind of female team out there, and I don't think we expected that. So to win it was just unbelievable. And I remember ringing my mum, and to them it was the middle of the night, and I didn't really care. I was just like, we've won. And she opened the bedroom window and shouted down the street because everybody had said, as soon as you know, let us know. And I could hear people in the background kind of cheering.
That's amazing. Oh, that's lovely, isn't it? What a lovely memory. That's great. Because there was no, there's no way of letting anyone know anything apart from phones at that time, really, wasn't there? No text messages even, really, in 96.
No, my mum still has not got text messages. It was never going to work.
Yeah, fair enough. Oh, what an amazing feeling. And was it hard? Was it physically really hard on the pitch?
Yes, it was. So I think we found that their ball handling skills were very quick and very good, and they were very organised, but also very, very quick. So even kind of some of their bigger players seemed to be fast and strong, and I think, not as much as a shock as when we played New Zealand and the Kiwis and Maoris, but actually they just seemed like you could kind of tell that there were a few years ahead of us.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if actually the way that we went into it and how committed we had to be and such the hard work, I think we were all just absolutely clinging on and thinking, we've worked too hard for this. We're so close. We might not get this chance again. You just had to go for it.
Go for it. And what was it like then coming home? Did you, was there a recognition, certainly locally, if not regionally? What was that like?
Coming home was strange, and even just coming home from a tour was strange, because I think the adrenaline was that I don't think I slept for about 3 days, and so you're coming home, and actually physically it's quite demanding doing what we're doing, and I was injured as well, and coming home and then just coming back down to earth, because when we was out there, we'd play at the Brisbane Broncos ground, and going to their kind of a casino upstairs, but they used to host us and things like that when we were there, and just coming back then to normal day-to-day life was a real kind of it hit people quite hard, really. It certainly did me, and kind of like, oh, is this it now? You come home on such a high, and then within a couple of days it's kind of, all right, it's work today now.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting, that. And I think locally, the local paper had put some things in as we were going out there, and done some articles. So as we came back, they did a couple of articles, because quite a lot of local people that had been in the squad. I remember going to the Sports Women's Awards in London. So that the Amateur Sports Women's Award, a kind of a month or so after that. And that again in itself was just kind of just in awe, really, because there was all the kind of athletics team there that we know, and maybe a cricket team and things like that. But it was the first time that a women's rugby league team had been there.
Amazing.
And again, just very, we walked in with our Great Britain suits on, and this guy, as you walked in, would ask your name, and you'd tell him, and he just banged this big stick on the floor, and everybody looks up, and you're like, oh, no. It's just me. But actually that exposure and kind of that recognition felt really good at the time, but very short-lived as well. It was just you went and did that. We didn't win the awards, but then back home the day after, and it's all forgotten about.
Yeah, gosh, that's amazing. And did you have a kind of thought at the time, Jo, that about your male counterparts who were also, because what you achieved in being the first, and nobody has since achieved that feat of beating the Australians in Australia on a tour, male or female. Did you have an idea of thinking what understanding what you'd done there, and thinking that should be recognised? And
I think at the time, we'd said that when we went to the awards when the award for the best team overseas award was given out, and you see the other people in the category and up for the awards, we actually thought we should have won. Yeah. So when we was there, I think leading up to it, we kind of thought we're just going down there to make the numbers up. It's a bit of recognition, how great. But then when we heard the other nominees and what they've been nominated for, we actually all afterwards said, actually, we should have won that. Looking back now,
that's really interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. And it's interesting to think about what that says about rugby league, and how it was perceived, and possibly women's sport. I don't know because I don't know who won, but yeah. Then looking forward to the 98 tour. So what happened in between that? 'Cause it's quite a quick turnaround, isn't it, in a way?
It was quite a quick turnaround, and some things happened in the middle of that I think were quite pivotal. I think we got a lot more fitter. So we then from the win and going out to Australia, we then got a lot more people involved that were conditioners and helping us how to get fit, how to get stronger and things like that. So we did an awful lot of different training then, which at the time for us was kind of like, wow, none of us have ever done anything like this before. And I just remember everybody that were in them squads, and probably because we enjoyed the Australia tour so much, just really upping their game so much more. We also got kind of that pre-warning of actually the Maoris, when you play them, and the New Zealanders are that more advanced that it's going to feel like you're playing, and I likened it, it's going to feel like you're playing men. Okay. So I know that we even played, I think it was an under-21s team that was maybe a Yorkshire team, and I know we played them as preparation because it actually was physically, from all the games I've ever played with, and I've played some games with some really, really tough players across most teams in the league, some super players and some tough players. The body mass just feels different, when you hit it, it's like, all of a sudden it's like, ow, that hurts, and every single tackle that either you did or you ran into, you thought, ow, that hurts. And actually, mentally, that got us a little bit more prepared for that. I don't think it got us totally prepared because we only played the one game. We were scared of getting injuries as well, because obviously that's the other risk. But when we went out there, you can see why they did that, because they just, their muscle mass and their body mass just seemed to just hurt a lot more.
Really, yeah. And had you had to fundraise to go on this tour as well?
Yeah, we did have to fundraise. We got a little bit more kind of funding and sponsorship and things like that. So it felt a little bit more professional. It did feel like we could go buy, 2 sets of shirts instead of just one set, and it just felt a little bit more comfortable. And I think things have moved on a little bit. And from our win in Australia, more local companies and things like that were willing to then help you raise the money. But we still had to do, I remember us going and doing lots and lots of bucket collections at grounds and things. And I think, most of our families and friends, they would never not help you fundraise. Of course, they always would. But I think after we won in Australia, they were saying, you shouldn't have to be doing this, And most people that we met as we were doing bucket collect as well, because there's nothing better than the Rugby League fans, they were saying the same, God, you shouldn't be having to do this, but here, all the best and hope you get there. But it didn't seem as tough, I think, for the New Zealand one.
Right, okay, and that's good. That's a positive then, isn't it? That's a positive. And what was the tour like? What was it like being in New Zealand? Presumably you haven't been there before.
No, never been to New Zealand before. New Zealand, I just remember the people being such the nicest people that you could ever meet, and then so bloody tough on the field. It was just like, wow, you'd play a game against some people and think, wow, they're just animals, they're beasts, and then afterwards they're just so nice and so kind, and they just seem to look after us really well. So
how lovely.
They really looked after us, but they give us a good beating on the field.
Really? Yeah,
they did.
So that was tough. It was a tough tour.
I think it was a tough tour mentally for a lot of people, because it's hard when you're getting a lot of injuries and you're not winning. I remember a couple of the kind of midweek games. We had a bit more fun. I remember us going to Canterbury, and we'd got a couple of key players out. So and actually we were looking after a few key players as well, ready for the test match. And I remember being in that game. We played against Canterbury, and all the stars aligned. For me personally, that night, I can remember walking off the pitch saying to myself, I'll never play that well again. I'll never play that well again. And actually, you know, I wasn't used to being one of the stars of the field. I was just somebody that kind of, in my mind, I just made the numbers up. So actually to walk off, I got the player of the game. I've even got a video from that game as well. I've got some video. I remember us walking into a pub probably about an hour afterwards, once we'd got ourselves sorted, and they said, right, this is where we're going to have our food. And they were playing it on a big screen. And people were coming up going, oh, awesome game, and asking for your autograph and things. And you think they're joking at first, then you kind of like, oh, right, okay. Oh, no, you mean it. You want my autograph.
Jo, that's amazing.
Yeah, just an absolute wow. And there was myself and a couple of other players, some awesome players as well, that played phenomenal games in that. And I just remember it being one of them. Yeah, I don't think it gets any better than that. That's how the stars must feel every game. That's how they feel, okay.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So it was, you didn't win, did you? You didn't win overall?
No, we didn't. We didn't win any of the test matches. They were very tough games, and you know, it's hard to think that you've put all that effort in and all that preparation in. But you know, it's a great life lesson as well, because effort doesn't always mean that you're going to succeed. And actually, they're the same as us, other than, you know, they've probably been preparing longer. There was a few of the players that we talked to that went over to Asia to play things like softball and things like that professionally in the season. So a lot of them didn't have to do what we did and do the fundraising and then you know, work for a living as well. So you could just tell that they were on that next level, and you know, for all the effort we put in, it doesn't always mean that you're going to come out winners. Yeah,
and that's sport, and that's life, isn't it? And that's fine. Yeah. So you mentioned before we started that you would have been in the next tour, the 2000, but for injury. So what happened? So what happened when you came back from 98? So you carried on playing club rugby, presumably.
Yeah, carried on playing club rugby, but I think I'd started getting a few injuries by then. So, you know, by then I'd probably been playing, about 8 years or so. And I think in amateur sport and a contact sport, you kind of do that thing where you get injuries, you kind of nurse them for a couple of days, you have a little bit of a light run midweek, back to rugby training Thursday, Friday, and then you're playing on the Sunday, because, you know, there was a lot of the time where if you did have quite a lot of injuries, you might not have enough players if you didn't turn up on the Sunday and play. And I think I'd got into a little bit of a bad habit, that I'd got some injuries that I probably wasn't looking after well enough. But then I got into the 2000 squad and started, you know, getting into that training. And I always remember thinking, brilliant, this one's actually on UK. This is in the UK. So my family and friends, everybody I've worked with that's helped, you know, get me to all the other ones, they can at least come and watch us play now. And I think one of the moments that I always wanted my mum and dad to see was a singing the national anthem. You know, that lineup, and that, because that's quite emotional as well. That lineup, singing that national anthem, and then a few months before, I remember, you know, my injuries getting the better of me and having to say, look, I can't take somebody's place. It's just not fair. So I remember being part of the squad and going to the games, but actually not having that great feeling of standing in that lineup and letting my close family and friends, you know, see that.
Yeah. Oh, how disappointing.
Yeah, disappointing. But, you know, even from the first tour, the amount of absolutely phenomenal players across all the teams, you know, and everybody deserves that chance as well. And I remember at the time thinking, it's not fair to take someone's place here, because I don't think, even if I could play one game, I'm not sure I'd get through a full tour. So it's just not fair.
Yeah. Oh, you're a good egg.
Always.
So did you know then that you were hanging up your international boots at that stage?
I don't think I knew I was hanging up international boots at that stage, but I kind of was putting a lot more effort into my career then, because obviously while you're doing all this, you know, my career kind of took a hold. I had a great jobs and working for great companies, but it kind of got put on hold because actually that wasn't my priority. You know, that's not where my commitment and dedication was. So I'd started then kind of putting a little bit more time into my career and starting to kind of really enjoy that and start getting somewhere in my career. So it's then balancing, you know, what's that priority now? And I think that for me, when I had to drop out, it was that disappointment. And it was that maybe that's a sign that carry on playing for club. But actually your body might not get through something that intense when it's an amateur sport.
It's another that you're right, that commitment to, and kind of having to choose between the, you know, playing or the career or the career, you know, it's quite it's hard, it's, you know, it's a shame that you had to make that choice, isn't it? That's you know, and luckily things have moved on to, you know, not perfect, but things have moved on. But you did carry on playing club rugby then for
for quite some years actually. But again, a little bit of that kind of little bit of injury, and I'd been able to move on a Monday and kind of going through that cycle really and getting yourself better. But you know, it's that love and that passion for the game. You're not going to not turn out on a Sunday and not want that shirt on.
That's amazing. So kind of what were the biggest positives and the biggest challenges of your international career, do you think, Jo?
I think positives for me, a little bit of that getting to know people. I'm definitely, I love meeting people and learning about, you know, the background and how they've got to where they've got to as well, because we all come from very different backgrounds and very different kind of cultures, even within the UK, and you know, meeting people that ordinarily you might just play against, you know, on a maybe twice a year. And actually getting to know them people was absolutely awesome for me, and I thought that was great positive. And the other thing is the life lessons from what we've got as well. The amount of times that, because I kind of lead teams now in operations and things, the amount of time I use sporting analogies.
Really?
Because there's no way, even when you're in New Zealand and you know, we were getting thumped in one of the test games, there's no way, unless you're being subbed or where that whistle blows, there's no way that you're not giving 100%. And the amount of times that you can use things like that in business and with teams and say, hold on a minute, you don't give in, we've not got there, but we will rethink it, we'll put an action plan in place. And I'd say to them, the whistle's not gone, we've not gone off the field, we carry on. We carry on, we pull together and we work together. And so using them kind of life lessons from there has been, and maybe that's my career choice as well, of leading teams.
Absolutely,
but it's really helped me, and you can really feel that sense of I'm part of a team and I know and understand what that means. Where you all commit, you all trust each other to do your role, and make sure that, you know, when it's your turn, you give every 100% for your team as well.
That's really inspiring hearing that. I think that's amazing. And what about the challenges, do you think?
I think the challenges, certainly on the Australia, was more around the off-field stuff, so more around, you know, it being an amateur sport, we had to fundraise, and it really felt quite draining sometimes that have we got the money? Haven't we got the money? It doesn't matter whether you're good enough to be in the squad or not. We've got to raise this money as well, and it just seemed relentless. I think the New Zealand thing was more about the physically, but actually gave some really good mental toughness, and some great life lessons. and actually you have to then take what are the good things to look out of that. Like I said, I had that one game where, you know, everything just seemed to go right in that particular game, and you've got to take that good out of that, because, you know, if you all just think, well, we lost 3 tests and we lost this, you know, we did come home a little bit disappointed, and but you could get yourself in a real kind of down state of, we're not good enough and there's no point. But actually take the good stuff out of there.
Yeah, that's great. And that's just thinking then about that mentality, when you're saying that you know, you kind of, you can pick yourself up and what have you. You know, you'd said a couple of times that you know, that you kind of didn't think that you know, at the start that you'd be good enough for that and stuff. And it's like, but you know, looking at what you'd have achieved, it's like, you must know that you absolutely were, and that look at what you've done. And I suppose kind of my question would be about kind of the reflections on that, looking back. You know, that's a few years ago, isn't it? That's, well, over 20 years ago that you stopped playing internationally. And what would your reflections looking back be on that career?
I think what it has done, and again, it's that reflecting on it and learning from it. What I do joke about this, actually. I say I'm one of life's overachievers. So I say that, you know, for I don't think I'm naturally athletic, and I'm certainly not the quickest. That I wasn't the toughest on the field, but actually that work ethic of being dedicated, committed, training when I needed to train and doing what I needed to do, which was tough for me sometimes, because like I said, I don't think I'm naturally, that's the person that I am. I've taken that into work as well. So in a work sense, again, I'd always say that, you know, within our businesses, it's a lot of engineers or graduates and things like that that get up that career ladder. And actually, you know, that dogged determination, and every time I, you know, if I get a setback, it's not a setback, it's give me that feedback. What do I need to improve on? And think, I'm going to get there. And I think you can draw on them experiences from sports and actually say, well, actually, I know that I've been through this model before and I haven't been good enough, but actually when I work hard and when I fully commit to it and when I dedicate myself to it, I'm going to get there. Yeah. And I think I've done the same in my career as well. So looking back, I think what you kind of get from that is I have achieved something really great. And, you know, in my rugby career and my professional career. And actually, looking at that, you learn from that. And what I'd say to kind of players these days is, even if you don't think you're the star of the show, and, you know, like I said, at Wakefield, there were that many great players. Yeah. I kind of looked around thinking, wow, you know, I'm not even in the top 6 to 8 of our players. But actually, with that hard work and that dedication and commitment, you can still be a really valuable member of that team. Yeah. and make sure that you give 100% every time that you get the chance. Yeah, that's really interesting. And you think kind of leading on from that, you know, there are 13 people on the pitch in that team, and it's like you say, you've all got a role to play. You've all, you know, and I think that's, you know, from what you say, that's, you know, that's really important. And what do you think about Women's Rugby League now, you know, looking ahead to this World Cup that we're having, and thinking how far that has come in the last 30-40 years, and your role in that as a team member, as an individual, you know, do you reflect on that? Can you know, it's quite impressive, isn't it, the trajectory that it's going? Yeah, it's to see it now. You do get them thoughts of, oh God, I wish it was like this when I had a chance. But actually, you know, at that time and in that place, you know, you've got to say that, and I always believe this, you're in the right place at whatever time is right. And I think looking at it now, it looks, even when I'm watching it, because I don't get to a lot of the games, but I watch a lot of the videos that are uploaded, and it's fast. It looks, you know, they look strong, they look athletic, they look fit, and actually it looks a really good place to be right now. And so the squad members that are in that squad must feel great to be part of that. It's a lot more professional. They get a lot more exposure, even on social media and things like that. And to look back at that now, you know, they've not got to take that for granted as well. Because actually, they're in a such a great place, you know. They need to just grab it with both hands and hold on tight to it.
Yeah, definitely, that's right, isn't it? And you know, thinking about that, you know, you don't get where it is now from nothing. And it is, though, you know, that constant kind of, from even before 96 and before that tour, that kind of determination of people to make this work and to make it, you know, give it the exposure and give it the structure that it needed, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And you know, just even looking back, the friends that I've got now from there, I've got some friends that I've been friends with for over 30 years. We still meet regularly. We still kind of have on the Facebook, we'll have a group page. We get to see each other a lot, you know. When we had our wedding, it was like a rugby reunion. It was just kind of, but they're my chosen family now. They're my friends and will be for life. And they're just some awesome people that are still people I keep in touch with, that were on that inaugural tour or the New Zealand tour, that I've maybe not seen them for a lot of years, and from other clubs. But if they ever needed me now, I'd be there.
Yeah.
And you just have that sense of belonging.
Yeah.
You know, we face that much adversity and that many people saying, you know, oh, rugby's not for women, and you know, we proved them all wrong and we went out there and won it. To achieve something like that together, you feel like, you know, you are a team, and you've got that belonging and that sense to them team now of, you know, if they ever needed anything, I'd be there for them.
Yeah, and I'm sure vice versa. I've heard a lot of lovely things about you. So you know, yeah. And Jo, thank you so much for that. That's absolutely brilliant. It's lovely to hear your memories and just get a real sense of what it was like and what you got from it. So thank you very, very much.
That's not a problem. It was lovely to relive the memories.
Oh, good. I'm glad.